2 weeks ago, Netflix published a six-part German miniseries titled Wir sind eine Welle, which is also called We Are the Wave in English-speaking markets. It was filmed in German, but also has English and Russian subtitles. The miniseries is a remake of a 2008 German movie called Die Welle, which in turn was a remake of a 1981 American movie called The Wave. The show was funded by Netflix. I can't find specifics about the budget, but I have no doubt that millions of dollars was spent on each episode. The heroes of the TV show are radical left-wing extremists who use violence and mayhem to promote their ideologies. The main enemy is a political party called NFD, which, in reality, is supposed to represent a major real-life political party called the AFD. They even copy the AFD logo with only barely noticeable changes. The other major villains in the show are capitalism in general, major corporations in general, the luxury real estate industry, the meat industry, and the firearms industry. A particular target is a fictional gun manufacturer based on Heckler & Koch. The first episode opens with a fictional AFD politician being drugged and kidnapped in a scene that is reminiscent of Red Army faction terrorism of the 1970s. There are 5 main characters, all of whom are blatant cookie-cutter stereotypes. There is no character development at all. The first 2 episodes in particular, I felt like I was just watching a showcase of cookie-cutter cliches. The show also plays the most annoying piece of 1980s synthwave music over and over to the point that you can't stand it anymore. The main character is Tristan, a bad boy leftist extremist enrolling at a new high school. He is from a wealthy, well-connected family in the big city. At a young age, he ran away from home to join a leftist squatter camp. Then he was sentenced to hard time and juvenile detention, but this being Germany, he is on daytime release to support his reintegration back into polite society. Then you have Leia, a girl from a wealthy family who has a rich boyfriend and competes in tennis matches. For no reason in particular, she immediately dumps her rich boyfriend in her tennis matches for the new bad boy in town and becomes a Lynx extremist. The one thing that Netflix actually gets right is the fact that the left-wing extremist movement is dominated by kids from wealthy families. Another character, Zazie, is an angry, bitter teenage girl because her father abandoned her. Tristan defends her from some bullies, so she immediately shaves her head, gets some punk rock clothing, and a giant obnoxious tattoo. She is basically one of those before and after memes of left-wing women. Absolutely no original thought went into the writing of her character whatsoever. Halfway through the series, she asks her grandfather if he will teach her how to shoot his pistol. Her grandfather is thrilled because it's something fun they can do together and gives her the combination to his safe. At this point, you can easily predict everything that Zazie is going to do for the rest of the series. There are no surprises whatsoever. Besides the highly predictable, underdeveloped plot, there are significant parts that are about as believable as the Jussie Smollett hoax. In other words, you have entire segments in which the dialogue and the actions of certain characters could only occur in the fantasies of leftists. The worst example is a scene where Leia is lured into an ambush. A group of male AFD members from her high school smack her around while gleefully describing how they plan to revive the Third Reich and launch a campaign of ethnic genocide. They order her to spray paint an illegal symbol, but the tiny girl heroically fights off her attackers and escapes. This incredibly unrealistic and slanderous cringe fest is based on the delusions of the radical left wing. It is something I like to call victim fan fiction. Now, let me put this into context. Right now, Germany has a severe problem with far-left violence. Since Netflix released this TV show, there have been 2 major arson attacks on construction companies in Saxony. This comes on the heels of an entire year of similar arson attacks in Saxony. Also in Saxony, left-wing extremists invaded the home of a 34-year-old female real estate agent and savagely beat her. Now, the state police agency in Saxony is offering rewards of up to 100,000 euros for information leading to the arrests in some of the most serious crimes perpetrated by left-wing extremists. This is the first time rewards of this magnitude have been offered by a German police agency since the days of Red Army faction terrorism. Now, I wanted to watch all 6 episodes before I did this review. I did not want to assume what would be happening at the end and be wrong. I thought maybe the characters would renounce violence and some of their more asinine and hysterical rhetoric at the conclusion of the show. This most certainly does not happen. The show does not end with a conflict over ideologies and the use of violence. Instead, Tristan and Leia become estranged in a conflict over how much violence and criminality should be used. One of them wants to go full hardcore terrorist, and one of them wants to stick with trespassing, vandalism, and assaults. However, you basically get the impression that Netflix is totally cool with some level of criminality and violence in the name of promoting far-left ideologies. There's only about 2 minutes out of about 4.5 hours where there is any kind of self-examination. Leia is being questioned about an attack on a German slaughterhouse. The police officer asks her how she feels about the working class people that are having their livelihoods disrupted because of her actions. Leia says, "They can get better jobs." The officer casually mocks her by suggesting that, sure, if they have rich, well-connected parents like she does. This is pretty much the only part of the 6-part miniseries where the left-wing extremism of the main characters is in any way countered. Overall, Netflix basically made a 6-part Valentine's Day card for young, violent, left-wing extremists. It also hints of a possible sequel at the end. As far as I can tell, very few people are even watching the show. I checked some of the well-known leftist extremist websites, and even they are not even talking about it. In fact, there is very little online chatter about this show at all. There is some chatter about an AFD lawsuit against Netflix. This would never fly in the USA because Americans have almost no legal protection from slander and libel. However, in Europe, this is a much different story. The fact that Netflix changes AFD to NFD in the show is specifically to avoid any lawsuits, but any sane person would agree that they made it overwhelmingly obvious that NFD meant AFD. This is a very serious matter. For example, last September, 3 high school students in Berlin sent text messages to the son of an AFD politician threatening him with murder. There are real-life consequences to this hysterical dehumanization of conservatives. So maybe under German law, they could have a case against Netflix. I don't know. So in conclusion, I would not recommend watching this show for any other reason than as a cure for insomnia. I suspect that it has been a financial failure for Netflix. I can't see people subscribing to Netflix just to watch this snore fest, even if they agree with the extremism that is promoted in it. Also, given the current crisis of left-wing violence in Germany, Netflix is basically pouring gasoline on a fire. The only truly great show that Netflix has ever been involved with is Lilyhammer, which they made in conjunction with Norwegian public television. The only other shows on their streaming service I would recommend are the British show Last Kingdom and the Russian show Better Than Us. Alright, thanks for watching this video. Click the like button, post a comment below and tell me what you think about this. And please consider making a donation to this YouTube channel as YouTube has mass demonetized all my videos. And please support my sponsor, Patriotic Flags, the online flag store, patriotic-flags.com. They got lots of new flags and everything's on sale until Friday night at midnight. And click the subscribe button. New video every few days.